Guys, I covered 2 events this week. How in the hell did you go 0-11 with Kinnan? This is Craig Mack, and I'm back. This is episode 11 of the Pregame Podcast, the show where you get caught up on everything happening in competitive Commander before you shuffle up. And this week, we got a fun one. We're starting with the tournament report, breaking down 2 cEDH events from the past weekend, and there is some spice. We're taking a look at Krark, son of Yawgmoth, the Goth Daddy, Rocco, the Cabaretti Caterer, and a local favorite around here, Krark Sakashima, because apparently flipping coins is still a perfectly reasonable way to play competitive Magic. Then we're going to do something a little bit different this week for cEDH Buzz. How to prepare for a cEDH tournament. We're talking about meta research, knowing your matchup, flex slots, understanding the decks across the table, tournament day politics, mindset, and how to avoid turning into a deer in headlights when you sit across from a really good player. And finally, we got events you should be at, including one event that has a legitimate chance to become the biggest cEDH tournament ever. This is something you should not miss. But before we get to all of that, like the video, subscribe to the channel, drop us a comment. It costs you absolutely nothing and it helps this little show continue to grow. More importantly, get cEDH in front of as many people as possible. And to everyone who's already subscribed, shared an episode, or told somebody about the show, thank you. We really appreciate you guys. We're just trying to spread the gospel cEDH to anybody who'll listen, and you're helping. All right, enough talking about what we're going to talk about. Let's talk about it. This is episode 11 of the Pregame Podcast. Let's pregame. All right, guys, it's time for the tournament report. This week, we've got 2 pretty different snapshots of cEDH, both from August 15th. First up, we'll have the Valley Forge 2026, hosted by Excalibur Events. 97 players, a really interesting field, and more importantly, some decks showing up that we don't always get to talk about. There are some familiar faces at top, but there's also some spice in this one. A few commanders making legitimate runs, some interesting meta choices, and plenty to dig into. Then we're heading across the Atlantic to the Path of Exile National European Qualifier. 85 players, and apparently Europe woke up that morning and chose violence, because this field was turbo-pilled. Fast mana, fast wins. Rograk, Adnaz. If your game plan involved calmly developing your board for 4 turns, wrong tournament. And that's actually what makes these 2 events so interesting to look at together. But 2 very different pictures of what competitive Commander looks like right now. So what performed well in both? What dumpstered? Are there any decks that we should actually change the way we're thinking about the meta? Let's get into it. All right, so first up, we've got to give a big hat tip to Rogsai. Rogsai, congratulations. Not only did you top 16, you actually won the event. I give a lot of shit to Rogsai, but Rogsai is a fantastic deck, actually one of the most powerful decks in cEDH. Its biggest issue is when it sits down at the table, it is enemy number 1. Everyone at the table, usually, if they're playing responsibly, mulligans for interaction, and it can get blown out fairly easily. But Rogsai, when it's uninterrupted, when it has protection, will just win the game. Rogsai's still a fantastic deck. It used to be one of my favorites. So that's why I riv on it so much. So Rogsai, 3 entries, 1 top cut, 33% conversion rate. Congrats again. Next up, we have a Santa Fe favorite. We have Krark Sakashima. This had 1 entry, 1 top cut, 100% conversion rate. This thing took 2nd place. I love this deck. This deck is an absolute blast to play, not play against. There's a lot of weird interaction points. The stack gets confusing. There's tons of coin flips, rolling dice. Sometimes people accuse this deck of being luck-based, but you just put the odds in your favor by cloning Krark, Sakashima. You're flipping so many coins, rolling so many dice. Usually, unless you're just Jessica's willing on turn 3 and hoping you get there. The deck is fairly consistent, hard to stop. I think it fell out of favor because of, the slot metagame, Orcish Bowmasters, lots of different things. But Krark Sakashima, when piloted by a good player, is an extremely powerful deck and hard to stop. Turbo number 2. Next up, we had Crystal, the Inhuman Princess. This is a deck we've been talking a lot about since it came out. This had 3 entries, 2 top cuts, a 67% conversion rate, and took 3rd place. As far as I can tell, this is kind of Ian Flannery's build, give or take 1 or 2 cards. So it's a mid-range deck that can storm off. It's, 4 colors, very consistent. Next up, it was Blue Farm, 6 entries, 1 top cut, 17% conversion rate. Most of these were Turbo Farm. Rogthras, 6 entries, 1 top cut, 17% conversion rate. So another huge entry into the event. Dogthras, 4 entries, 1 top cut, 25% conversion rate. Dogthras has picked up a ton of new toys in the new sets. So it got Shang-Chi, it got Gleaming Splendor, and it got the Queen of Dale. This might be one of the best homes for the Queen of Dale. It comes down early, card selection and makes bodies for your Cradle. I mean, this thing is triggering 3 to 4 times and just makes it really powerful when you're looking for Cradle synergies. I think Dogthras is probably a deck we should look at more. And now with the new pieces, I know it was slower than Rogthras before. I think Dogthras is more consistent now and has some really neat tools. So give Dogthras a look. Next up, Ral Monsoon Mage, 1 entry, 1 top cut, 100% conversion rate. The Yam, Tyam, two entries, 1 top cut, 50% conversion rate. Again, Tyam's starting to show up every week. So you have to keep this on your radar now. It's getting stronger and people are picking it up, realizing that it's hard to interact with. It's a hard deck to stop. Love to see the Yam doing well. It just adds something different to the meta. I'd put this in a mid-range activation pile. TNT, 5 entries, 1 top cut, 20% conversion rate. This is Jorman's turbo list. We covered this earlier on one of the podcasts. This is just Dark Ritual, Necrodom. Find a Swift Recon and just slap it on Devoted Druid, generate infinite mana, and win the game. There's no bells and whistles behind this. There's no backup plan. This is kind of just a straight turbo deck. I love to see this version of TNT. Like I said, TNT's got 3 or 4 strong builds right now. Jorman consistently puts up numbers with this deck. Teshar, I put into the turbo pile here just because this one is really turbo pilled. Lots of silence effects and just looking to go as fast as possible. Crick, 2 entries, 1 top cut, 50% conversion rate. Shout out to Dweebs. Dweebs has been taking this deck and just jamming it constantly. If you see his deck is absolutely beautiful, by the way. And his deck is a little bit different than other piles. It's more graveyard focused, generating mana from the graveyard. It's a really cool build of Crick. So if you haven't seen his list, open it up. It's an oldie but goodie, but one that I definitely think you should keep your eye on. Next up, we had Scion. So this is Scion of the Ur-Dragon, 2 entries, 1 top cut, 50% conversion rate. This is a turbo deck that can pivot when it needs to cast Scion, dump a dragon in the yard, and protect its wins, or just do insane combos with Prismari, Corvold, Ancient Copper Dragon. Kenrith, 1 entry, 1 top cut, 100% conversion rate. Not much to say about Kenrith. You know that one. Obnix, 1 entry, 1 top cut, 100% conversion rate. This is another ping deck, hard to interact with. Obnix lands, and you just start going through your entire library, exiling your cards, pinging the table out. And then we have Wheeliod. We've covered Wheeliod in the podcast before. 1 entry, 1 top cut, 100% conversion rate. And new this week, just for kind of meta breakdown for the event, I wanted to break the decks into piles for the top 16. So we had Turbo here, 56%. That's a high number. 8 to 9 of the decks, I would put into a turbo pile. They're not straight turbo, but that's what they're looking to do. Mid-range, 31%. And for Cradle activation decks, 13%. I know you guys love this. Which deck showed up in numbers? Which decks got absolutely dumpstered? Which decks got absolutely mollywopped, sent to the penalty box, taken behind the woodshed? We've got Kinnan of all decks here. Kinnan, 5 entries, 0 top cuts, 0% conversion rate. And we have Sisay, 4 entries, 0 top cuts, 0% conversion rate. These are really surprising. Sisay will tend to lose to a faster turbo deck. So with 56% of the top 16 being turbo, I can see that. But still, it will just get outpaced by real turbo decks. For Kinnan, that's a bit of a head scratcher, but Kinnan, if it's no bad cards, Kinnan, hard deck to pilot. It's hard deck to just pick up, bring into an event, and do well with. The current versions of it, anyways. And if it's going against turbo, if you sit down with 2 turbo decks, you can stop one of them. It's hard to stop both of them. This is with Rhystic Study, so I think when Rhystic Study eventually goes, and I do think it eventually goes, it is going to be hard to stop these turbo decks. All right, before we get into the decks, I just want to give a hat tip to Joseph Mikhail on Rogsai for winning the event. Always good to see. I like to pick on Rogsai a lot, but it's a hell of a deck. And Joseph, congratulations for making me eat my hat. Next up, we had Andrew Kim in second place on Krark Sakashima. We are going to look at that deck. And then Anthony Ward on Crystal and Human Princess in third place. And Dweebs rounding out top 4 on Crick, son of Yawgmoth, one of the graffiti altruists, and just an all-around good guy. All right, let's take a look at some of these decks. All right, so the first deck I want to take a look at was Andrew Kim and their Krark Sakashima list that took second place. So very impressive finish. Krark Sakashima, if you've never played against this deck, it's not as popular anymore. But here in Santa Fe, it gets played all the time. All types of Krark decks, all types of flipping coins, all types of rolling dice. So this is one that I am used to. I will not do the best job explaining this deck, but I'll give it my college try. There's enough players here that I don't pick it up that often, but I lose to it a lot. I really do. All right, so Krark the Thumb list. 1 red pip, 1 colorless pip for a legendary goblin wizard. This is 2/2. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, flip a coin. If you lose that flip, return that spell to its owner's hand. If you win the flip, Copy that spell. You may choose new targets for that copy. Partner. So Krark, on the surface, you cast any instant or sorcery, you're usually rolling a dice, odds or evens, that sort of thing. If you lose the flip, return to your hand. If you win the flip, you copy it. So you're getting 2 copies of the spell. On the surface, that's fine. Say you just raw dog a Jessica's Will out, you copy it, you're getting, 12 mana, 6 cards at the top of your deck, but that's not really what Krark does. Sakashima of 1,000 Faces. 1 blue pip, 3 colorless pips, legendary human rogue, 3/1. You may have Sakashima of 1,000 Faces enter the battlefield as a copy of another creature you control, except it has Sakashima of 1,000 Faces' other's abilities. The legend rule does not apply to permanents you control. Partner. So you cast Sakashima, you clone Krark, now you're flipping 2 coins with every spell you cast. But wait, there's more. Harmonic Prodigy. 1 red pip, 1 colorless pip, human wizard, 1/3 prowess. If an ability of a shaman or another wizard you control triggers, that ability triggers another time. So with Krark, it's a wizard, you're triggering it again. Irma, part-time unit, 1 blue pip, 2 colorless pip, 1/1. At the beginning of your combat in your turn, Irma becomes a copy of another target creature you control, except her name is Irma, part-time mutant, and she has this ability. Put a +1/+1 counter on her. So this will become a copy of Krark. Varen, Voice of Duality. 1 red pip, 1 blue pip, 1 colorless pip, 2/2. A free wizard. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Varen, the Voice of Duality, gets 1/1/1 per turn. Don't really care about that. If you casting or copying an instant or sorcery spell causes a triggered ability of that permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Yeah, we're doing that to Krark. Molten Duplication, you're making a copy of one of the doublers. Twin Flame, you're making a copy of one of the doublers. Wizard Staff, 1 blue pip, 1 colorless pip. Equipped creature has prowess. If an ability of an equipped creature triggers, the ability triggers an additional time. Equip wizard 1. So Krark, again, is a wizard. So what you're looking to do here is you get Krark down, you get a couple of doublers, pick your poison here. 1, you're in good shape. 2 or 3, you're probably winning the game. You'll start rolling dice, flipping coins. You'll get a couple copies, fantastic. You'll get a return to hand, it'll go back to your hand, and you'll do that shit again. So this just starts storming off, and it's very difficult to stop. It generates tons of mana while it's doing this. It plays VV, it plays Tavern Scoundrel, which will let you make a treasure every time you flip a coin, roll a dice. Electro, Bergie, Runaway Steam Kiln, which we talked about earlier. It plays all of the rituals. So what are the payoffs, though? So you start flipping coins, you start casting spells, you start generating mana. The cool thing about this deck is the payoffs are just weird cards, like Might of the Meek. Target creature gets trample until the end of the turn. It also gets +1/+0 until the end of the turn if you control a mouse. But who cares? It's a red mana instant that draws a card. You cast this. You generate mana from, all the things we were just talking about. You copy it once. You copy it twice. It gets returned to your hand. You draw 2 cards. You do it again. You've got Crash Through. Very similar thing. Draw a card. 1 red mana. Crimson Wisp. Target creature becomes red and gains haste until the end of the turn. Draw a card. These cards come out of nowhere, and it just churns through the whole deck, generates storm count, and you get going from there. Another good one, Gitaxian Probe. This will cost you 2 life, but it's free. Look at target player's hand, scout the table out, draw a card, copy it a couple times, gets returned to your hand. You just keep going for as much life as you have. Submerge, Mog Salvage, Gitaxian Probe, Gut Shot. These are just cracked cards with Krark and a doubler. Love to see those played. And the deck itself plays all kind of interaction that you'd expect. Let's talk about some of the highlights from the interaction. So you got Deflecting Swat, you've got Fierce Guardianship, you've got Mindbreak Trap. These spells will get copied multiple times and usually 1 return to your hand. So when you're playing against Krark, as much as it sucks, when they cast a Deflecting Swat, when they cast a Fierce Guardianship, they have a doubler out. And even if they don't, the best thing you can do is don't let the Krark triggers go on the stack, counter the thing immediately, and just accept that their spells are uncounterable and your shit's getting hit. So Deflecting Swat, Fierce Guardianship over and over again, really cool. Tibalt's Trickery, this one's an interesting one in the deck. This is 1 red pip, 1 colorless pip, instant. Counter target spell, choose 1, 2, or 3 at random. Its controller mills that many cards, then exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card with a different name than that spell. They may cast that card without paying its mana cost. So this can counter something. But if you have a doubler out, this can start hitting your own spells and flipping through your deck, generating mana, countering worthless spells, and dumping things from your library onto the battlefield. And then it plays some really cool cards. Archmage of Meritus, 2 blue pips, 2 colorless pips, 2/2 human wizard again. Magecraft, whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, draw a card. You are copying so many spells in this deck, you are going to be drawing your entire deck. Used to run it in VV myself, but it was a little too expensive in that one. And then we talked about this card last week, Ashling the Flame Dancer. This is a perfect Ashling deck. Ashling the Flame Dancer, 2 red pips, 2 colorless pips. You don't lose unspent red mana as steps and phases end. Can be kind of important in this deck. But Magecraft, whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, you discard a card, draw a card. If this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, Ashling the Flame Dancer deals 2 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. So that's a very cool effect. Does a lot of damage to the Cradle decks, to the activation decks. So really powerful effects, all 3 of them in this deck. But you can win multiple ways, pinging the table out, dual caster mage lines, breach, brain freeze, breach, lightning bolt. Next up, we've got Dweebs in their Krark Son of Yawgmoth deck, and this thing is awesome. The basic idea of Krark is that your life total becomes your mana pool. You use Krark to cheat on black mana, and then you race through tutors and reanimation spells to assemble some pretty disgusting creature-based combos. This particular build is heavy on the graveyard and reanimator plan. You've got Razaketh and Hoarding Broodlord to tutor through your deck, Asmodeus and Scourge Familiar is part of your big draw and big mana engines, and Necrotic Ooze to steal activated abilities from creatures in your graveyard. Eventually, you get to Chainer and Grey Merchant of Asphodel shenanigans to repeatedly drain the table. Basically, pay life, dump creatures into the graveyard, reanimate something horrifying, and turn your graveyard into a combo engine. This is just mono black doing mono black things, and I love to see it. Let's take a look at some of the cards. So Krark Son of Yawgmoth, this is 4 colorless pips and 3 Phyrexian mana. So you're paying 2 life or black mana for this. It's a legendary horror minion, 2/2, lifelink. For each black and a spell's cost, you may pay 2 life rather than pay that mana. So it gives all of your black spells the Phyrexian language, which makes them either free or really cheap. Whenever you cast a black spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Krark Son of Yawgmoth. This can really generate a bunch of life when you're trying to go off with the deck. So that's what Krark does. Just basically looking at the deck, you run Blood Pet, Overeager Apprentice, you run Calling the Weak, you run Dark Ritual, you run Cabal Ritual, you have Chrome Mox, Lion's Eye Diamond, Lotus Petal, Mox Diamond, Mana Vault, Manifold Key, Soul Ring, Voltaic Key, Grim Monolith, Jet Medallion. You have a Tezzeret to find those things. So this deck is trying to land a Krark on turn 1 or turn 2 and try to go off the following turn or even that turn. And how does it do that? Krark will land for 4 colorless mana and 6 life. Say you have a Blood Celebrant in your hand. You pay 2 life, you play this for free. Now you may play 1 black pip, pay 1 life, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. You can activate this with Krark's ability. You'll pay an extra life. So at this point, even spells with colorless pips in their mana costs, you're now paying 2 for the black and 3 for the colorless. It lets you play every spell in your hand for free. You know, your life total does become important in this deck, but that Blood Celebrant's one of the most powerful cards to have earlier on in the game. So next step is just kind of putting scary things into your graveyard or into play. To put things into your graveyard, you have an absolutely ton of things here. You have Lively Dirge, you have Unmarked Rave, you have Buried Alive, you have Entomb, you have Mausoleum Secrets. And once they're in the yard, you just start reanimating them with Reanimate, Lively Dirge. Down here we have Goro's Vengeance, Shallow Grave, Corpse Dance. Enchantments, we have Animate Dead, Necromancy. So the deck just puts things that win the game into the graveyard and starts reanimating them. One of the best ones by itself is Villas Broker of Blood. This is 3 black pips, 5 colorless pips, flying, 8/8, demon. For 1 black pip, so you play this with Krark, you pay 2 life. Target creature gets -1/-1 until the end of the turn. Whenever you lose life, draw that many cards. So now every time you're paying life with Krark, you are drawing that many cards. You're just starting to pick up your entire deck. But really what you're looking to do is get a bunch of creatures in your graveyard, get Necrotic Ooze out. As long as Necrotic Ooze is on the battlefield, it has all activated abilities of all creature cards in all graveyards. So say you have an Asmodeus the Archfiend, 2 black pips, 4 colorless pips, Legendary Devil God, 6/6 in your graveyard. With Necrotic Ooze on the battlefield, it has all activated abilities of all creature cards in your graveyard. The important activated ability here is 3 black mana, draw 7 cards. So you will pay 6 life, you will draw 7 cards. That's pretty good. Scourge Familiar in your yard, choose and discard a card, add black to your mana pool. So you'll draw 7, discard 3, draw 7 more, discard 3. So again, drawing your deck, generating mana. There's multiple win lines in this deck, but the easiest one to assemble is Chainer Dementia Master, either in your graveyard with a Necrotic Ooze out, or just on the battlefield by itself. 3 black pips, pay 3 life, put target creature card from a graveyard into play under your control. That creature is black and has a Nightmare in addition to its creature types. Cool. What are we doing with that? Grey Merchant of Asphodel. This is 2 black pips, 3 colorless pips, zombie, 2/4. When Grey Merchant of Asphodel enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life, where X is your devotion to black. You gain life equal to life lost that way. Chainer, bring back Gary, sack Gary to Dimir Houseguard or another outlet in your deck, and you just repeat the loop over and over again, draining the table out, gaining life as you do it. That's the cleanest win line. You still have Hoarding Broodlord, Sacrifice, Peer into the Abyss, or Stargaze, which is something that Dweebs is really big on. Look at twice X cards at the top of your library, put X cards from among them into your hand and the rest into the graveyard. So this fits right into his graveyard strategy. It's a really cool card. It cannot be swatted, so that's kind of cool. This version of his list is running Peer into the Abyss as well, so you can just draw half your deck. It's got Will, it's got Grasp, it's got Virtue. This deck is very consistent, hard to disrupt, and one that when it sits down at the table, you have to respect the thing. So hats off to Dweebs. So that's a very high level overview of the deck. It's too intricate to kind of get into all the weird little combo lines the deck can do. Maybe I'll have King the Great on the podcast or Dweebs to kind of talk about Krark in more depth. Krark, son of Yawgmoth, love to see it doing well. All right, so the next event we're going to take a look at was the Path to Exile National and Euro Qualifier number 3. This happened on August 15th, 2026. 85 players. Very, very turbo-pilled. We'll get to that later. But first up, we had Blue Farm, 7 entries, 2 top cuts, 29% conversion rate. This took down the event as noted by Gold. Gold for winner. Then we had Rocco, the Cabaretti Caterer. This had 2 entries, 1 top cut, 50% conversion rate. This took second in the event, as noted by Silver. This deck is a tutor chain deck. We're going to open the deck and show you what it does and how it tries to win the game. It's a really interesting deck choice, one we had made at the store for a while, and one that can surprise a lot of people. Then we had Prime Speaker Vanna, 1 entry, 1 top cut, 100% conversion rate. That took third. Turtles, so we had Mikey and Leo here, 1 entry, 1 top cut, 100% conversion rate. Then we had Ashling the Flame Dancer. Love to see this. 2 entries, 1 top cut, 50% conversion rate. Turbo Storm controls the table. Terra, the 5-color pile. 2 entries, 1 top cut, 50% conversion rate. Chatterfang, 2 entries, 1 top cut, 50% conversion rate. Sisay, 6 entries, 1 top cut, 17% conversion rate. Eureka, so good to see the ninjas doing well here. We had 2 entries, 1 top cut, 50% conversion rate. Dargo, 2 entries, 1 top cut, 50% conversion rate. Arkham Daxum, tutor chain deck. We talk about this one a lot. I think it's rising in popularity, and I think it's a really good deck. 2 entries, 1 top cut, 50% conversion rate. Ral, Monsoon Mage, 3 entries, 1 top cut, 33% conversion rate. Scion of the Dragon, 2 entries, 1 top cut, 50% conversion rate. Stella Lee back, 1 entry, 1 top cut, 100% conversion rate. And Anala, 1 entry, 1 top cut, 100% conversion rate. So if you were following along with the decks that top cutted there, Turbo, 81%. The Euros woke up, they chose violence, they chose to win the games, they chose to just go balls to the wall and just dump their hand on the table and see who won the game. I gotta respect that. Tutor chain decks, 13%, and mid-range, 16%. Notably, there was no slop in either of these tournaments. Slop was pushed to the wayside by the turbo decks. That's an interesting anecdote and something that we should probably pay attention to moving forward. Dumpsterings. Kinnan again. Kinnan's definitely getting the top spot here. 6 entries, 0 top cuts, 0% conversion rate. Kinnan just got rolled this weekend. And TNT, 4 entries, 0 top cuts, and 0% conversion rate. Not much to say about that. Hard to stop more than 1 turbo deck at the table. Hard to stop 2, and God forbid you sit down with 3. Just hang them up at that point, boys. All right, before we go any further, I just want to give a shout out and a hat tip to Tanya Crum from Snap for winning the event on Blue Farm. Matateo for taking second on Rocco Cabaretti Caterer. We're going to open that deck list and take a look at it. Sitsi Roos Shih Tzu, Prime Speaker Vanifar. That's a hell of an accomplishment, taking 3rd place on that deck. And Jonas Grund on Anala Archmaid Ritualist for taking 4th place. Congratulations, guys. So the one deck we're going to take a look at from this event is Rocco Cabaretti Caterer. This is a creature-based tutor chain deck, Naya. Rocco Cabaretti Caterer is Naya X, legendary creature, elf druid, 3/1. When Rocco Cabaretti Caterer enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you may search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. So it's a tutor in the command zone. That's always a powerful effect. Before we get into the individual cards, the deck runs all the mana: Avacyn Pilgrim, Birds of Paradise, Delighted Halfling, Elvish Mystic, Vindalhorn Elves, Llanowar Elves, Orcish Lumberjack, Ragavan, Tinderwall, Wild Cantor, Wirewood Symbiote, Badger Mole Cub, Bloom Tender, Ruby the Daring Tracker, Sticker Goblin, Mind Goblin these, Elvish Spirit Guide, Fairborough Elder, Shaman of the Forgotten Ways, Simian Spirit Guide, Summerwall Sage, and Treasonous Ogre. Sorceries, we're running Infernal Plunge, Metamorphosis, fantastic card from Arabian Nights. Rite of Flame, Strike It Rich, Instance, we've got Crop Rotations to Find the Cradles, we've got Desperate Rituals, Pyretic Rituals, Open the Omen Paths, Seething Song, Artifact Mana, Chrome Mox, Lion's Eye Diamond, Lotus Petal, Mox Diamond, Mana Vault, Soul Ring, Grim Monolith, and enchantments, Carpet of Flowers, and Food Chain. We'll get to that one. So this deck is just producing boatloads of mana, casting Rocco for X, and finding a win line. So what are some of these win lines? The main one is Kiki Jiki, the Mirror Breaker. So good old Kiki Jiki is 3 red pips and 2 colorless for a legendary Goblin Shaman, 2/2 haste, tap. Put a creature token into play that's a copy of target non-legendary creature you control. That creature token has haste. Sacrifice it at the end of turn. So Kiki Jiki will hit. You will find something like a Village Bell Ringer, which is 1 white pip, 2 colorless pip for a human scout, 1/4. Flash. When Village Bellringer enters the battlefield, untap all creatures you control. You will tap Kiki Jiki, make a copy of Village Bellringer. It will untap Kiki Jiki. You will do that again. 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 You will make an infinite army of Village Bellringers, and you will dome the table out. You could also do that with Felidar Guardian. Jolly Blue Man does something very similar if you have another mana dork out. Then you have stuff like Academy Rector, 1 white pip, 3 colorless, 1/2. When Academy Rector is put into a graveyard from play, you may remove the Academy Rector from game. If you do so, search your library for an enchantment card and put that card into play, then shuffle your library. Food Chain. Same thing as Academy Rector. This is 1 white pip, 3 colorless pips for a 1/2. When Arena Rector dies, you may exile it. If you do, search your library for a Planeswalker card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Your 1 Planeswalker in this deck is Vivian on the Hunt. This is 2 green pips, 4 colorless pips for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker. The important bit here is you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, search your library for a creature card with mana value equal to 1 plus the sacrificed creature's mana value, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle. So you'll find one of your pieces here with Vivian. But how do you get these in the yard other than blocking, which no one's going to attack into them? Infernal Plunge is a perfectly good card for this. 1 red pip as an additional cost to cast Infernal Plunge, sacrifice a creature, add 3 to your mana pool. So you're adding mana while getting rid of one of those. Birthing Pod will allow you to tutor chain while doing that. Metamorphosis is a bad sacrifice, but it's in green, so we'll do that. We'll sacrifice one of those, go get either an enchantment or a creature and generate mana while doing so. And Eldritch Evolution, same thing. You're going to sacrifice the creature, search your library for a creature card, and get one of the other pieces. Flare of Fortitude, 2 white pips, 2 colorless. You don't see this one this often, but you may sacrifice a non-token white creature rather than pay its spell's cost. Until the end of turn, your life total can't change, and permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible. Protects your combo, sets up your combo. Just really interesting Academy Rector and Arena Rector with all the sacrifices and ways to find your wins. And then, of course, as you saw earlier, there is Squee the Immortal, and there is Food Chain. So this is just infinite mana. Cast Rocco for whatever you want and win the game. And just in case you're worried about being stopped, you run Grand Abolisher, you run Tataru, you're running Ranger Captain of Eos, you're running a Silence. The deck should be on a Jennifer Walters, if you ask me. The more the better, especially if you can tutor them up with Rocco itself. Interesting deck choice, one that got brought up last week in comments actually on the YouTube video. So whoever brought that up, you were spot on, and I'd love to hear from you again. All right, guys, this week's cEDH Buzz actually comes directly from the comment section. One of you asked, how do you prepare for a big cEDH tournament? And I love this question because preparing for a cEDH tournament is completely different from preparing for most competitive 1v1 formats. In the old days, in Modern, Legacy, Pioneer, whatever, you can grab a couple of friends, proxy up the top decks in the format, and spend a weekend running a gauntlet. Play the matchup 10 times, switch sides, figure out what matters, learn what hands are good, what hands are bad, and where the weaknesses are. cEDH doesn't really work like that. A serious cEDH game can take an hour or more, sometimes 2-3 hours, 11 hours if you're Gold Sabertooth. If you get together for a testing session, you might play 3 or 4 legitimately high-level games. And even then, you've got 4 players, different seat positions, different mulligans, different threat assessment, politics, and a ton of variance. You can play the exact 4 decks the next day, switch to seat orders, and have the game feel completely different. So you can't really prepare by brute forcing every single matchup. You have to prepare differently. So here's how I would do it. Step 1, you got to know the meta. This is where the tournament results and metagame reports, like the ones we talk about every single week on the Pregame Podcast, become really valuable. What's being played? What's actually winning? What commanders are suddenly showing up everywhere? Did a new card just get printed in The Hobbit that's changing how people build their decks? Is Turbo having a moment? Are creature decks everywhere? Is everybody just jamming Breach again? You don't need to predict every single deck you're going to sit across from. That's impossible. But you should have a pretty good idea of what you're likely to encounter. At a big tournament, there's a good chance you're going to sit down with at least one or two established meta decks. Blue Farm, Kinnan, Rogthras, Sisay. But what's bubbling underneath the top decks? What's gaining popularity? What deck just top 16 an event that suddenly has 50 people building it into Moxfield? What commander just got a new card that's making people pick that deck back up? Those are the decks that can completely catch you unprepared. So look at recent events. Look at conversion rates. Look what's showing up in high numbers. You don't have to memorize the entire field, but you have to know what you're walking into, for the love of God. So playing off this. Step 2, you got to know your flex slots. Most established cEDH decks have a core that shouldn't change very much, but you probably have 5 or 6 cards that can be moved around depending on the tournament. Use them. If you're expecting a turbo-heavy field, maybe you want another piece of Chief Interaction, or a stacks piece that slows those decks down. If there's creature decks everywhere, maybe this isn't the tournament where you get cute and cut Swords of Plowshares, or that Chain of Vapor, or Into the Flood Maw. Lots of breach decks, of course. Get some graveyard interaction in there. Don't get rid of your Besaiges. Maybe it's time to sleeve up that Crossing Grip. Just think outside the box. Don't just think about stopping win conditions either. Think about the cards that people are using to create advantages. What strategies are you expecting to face? Those last 5 cards in your deck shouldn't be your 5 favorite cards. They should have a job. You're not rebuilding your deck every tournament. You're making small adjustments based on the field you realistically expect to see. Don't completely change your deck. Don't switch things up too much, but with those 5 flex slots, use them wisely. Step 3, don't panic and switch decks. This is a huge one. We see this almost every week on this podcast. Almost any well-built deck can have a great tournament if the pilot knows what they're doing. Don't spend 3 months mastering your deck. Look at one metagame report on Thursday, panic, sleeve up Blue Farm Friday night because someone told you it was better positioned. Play to your strengths. I would much rather play against somebody who picked up the best deck 3 days ago than someone who's played 500 games with their supposedly tier 2 deck. There's an enormous value in knowing your deck better than everyone else at the table. Know it inside and out, and don't overthink it. Step 4, you got to master your deck. This might be the most important thing on this entire list. Know your deck inside and out. Your win line should be ingrained in your brain. You shouldn't be figuring out your combo while the tournament clock is ticking. Know your primary win. Know your backup win. Know what happens when one of your combo pieces get exiled, because it will. Know which pieces are interchangeable. Know which cards you absolutely cannot afford to lose. Know how your deck plays from ahead, and probably more importantly, know how your deck plays from behind, because you are going to be behind a lot. Things are not going to go your way. This is cEDH. Weird things are going to come, and you need to be able to adjust. Know when you have to push. Know when you can't afford to wait. Know your interaction. Know what you're willing to spend it on. Know when you can pass responsibility to somebody else. Know how long it takes to actually execute your combo. This is big with Rog Ishai and control decks, because if there are 8 minutes left in the round and you start a complicated line that's going to take you 12 minutes to finish, the clock just became another opponent. Become a master of your deck before you sleeve it up, before you bring it to a tournament. Unless you're just there to have fun and jam something completely ridiculous. In that case, Godspeed. I respect it. Step 5, practice your mulligans. This is something I don't think people practice enough. You can do this on Moxfield. You can do this on Eldrazi GG, which I recommend. And it's one of the few parts of cEDH tournament preparation you can actually drill over and over and over again by yourself. Sit down with your deck, shuffle, draw 7, do it a lot, do it again, do it till you can't take it anymore. What does a keepable 7 look like? What does a keepable 6 look like? Can your deck comfortably go to 5, 4? But don't just look at the cards and ask, is this a keep? Is this hand good? Ask, what is this hand trying to do? Does it develop an engine? Does it interact? Does it need somebody else at the table to stop an early win? Would I keep this in seat 1? Would I keep this in seat 4? Would I keep this against Rogsai? Would I keep it against slower decks? Because your opening hand might be one of the most important decisions you make all game, and it probably is. And you make it before anybody casts a spell. So practice mulligans, guys. That's a huge one. Step 6, get as much information as you can. You don't have to master every deck in cEDH. In fact, that's impossible. But you should understand what the decks sitting across from you are trying to do. And here's something people sometimes seem embarrassed to do. And if you're sitting at a table, somebody sits down with a deck, you don't know what it does, ask them. Seriously, hey, I haven't played against this commander much. What's your deck trying to do? Most cEDH players are going to tell you. And if they don't tell you, the other 2 opponents are, because they want you to know. They want you to know how to interact. They want to know what's the threat. They don't want to lose because seat 3 had no idea that seat 1 was presenting a win. So before the game even starts, get as much information as you can. How does this deck generally win? Is it turbo? Is it mid-range? What are the combo lines? Is there something unusual about this list? Is there something unusual about your list? You're not asking somebody to tell you what's in their opening hand. You're gathering information so you can make better decisions. And once the game starts, keep asking questions, read the cards. Don't be embarrassed. There's so many cards in Magic. Just ask the question. Ask what something does. Ask how this interaction works if you're unfamiliar with it. Don't pretend you understand something because you're worried asking will make you look inexperienced or dumb. I'd much rather ask a question and feel a little bit stupid than lose a tournament game because I was too proud to say, wait, what does that card do? Is that uncounterable? Information is a resource in cEDH. Get as much of it as you possibly can. And while we're talking about the pregame, here's one of the simplest pieces of tournament advice I can give you. Introduce yourself. Before the round starts, shake hands, fist bump, whatever. Hey, I'm Craig. Nice to meet you. Ask their name, where they're from, how long they've been playing cEDH. Talk about their tournament for 30 seconds. Just be a normal human being, for God's sake, because there's a social component to multiplayer Magic, whether people want to admit it or not. You don't want to sit down, shuffle your deck, stare daggers at your opponent, and immediately become the enemy. Humanize yourself before the game starts, and let them become human to you too. You're all there because you love this ridiculous format enough to spend an entire weekend playing it. So talk to people. Be friendly. Be somebody people are comfortable communicating with, because that is so important in a cEDH game. There's going to be a moment, I guarantee it, where the table is going to have to figure out something together. Who's a threat? Who can interact? What happens if this resolves? If you spend 45 minutes acting like everybody at the table is your mortal enemy, don't be shocked when communication becomes harder. Don't be the enemy before the game starts. You can absolutely play to win while still being somebody people enjoy playing with. That's some of the best advice I can give. Step 7. Learn to play from every seat. In cEDH, seat position matters a lot. Your seat 1 game plan should not necessarily be identical to your seat 4 game plan. Your mulligans might change. Your willingness to tap out might change. The amount of responsibility you have to interact might change. So when you're testing, rotate seats. Don't let the same person sit in seat 1 all night. Don't roll dice while you're testing. Alternate seat positions. And when you're reviewing games, don't just ask yourself, did I make the right play? Ask, was that the right play from this seat? That's a much more useful question. Additionally, don't let seat order get in your head so much that it's affecting the way you play when you're sitting down for the tournament. If you're in seat 4, who cares? Try to win the game. The mindset of I'm in seat 4, I'm going to force a draw is not a good mindset. Forcing a draw when you absolutely must is, it's a fine play pattern. 1 point's better than no points. But if you're trying to make top 16, you're trying to win the event, get out of the draw mindset. Don't let seat 4, seat 3 get stuck in your mind and start affecting your play patterns. Just play your game, play it to the best of your ability, and see what happens. Because at the end of the day, your mental state has such a huge effect on how you're playing the game that if you have it in your mind already in seat 4 and seat 3 that you can't win, you're not going to win. Play your best and it'll increase your odds of winning the game, no matter what seat you're in. Okay, so this is a little bonus. This is where I need to start taking my own advice. Go to sleep. I am terrible at this. I get to an event, I stay up late changing 2 cards, looking at deck lists, hanging out with my friends, maybe having one too many drinks, convincing myself I've discovered some revolutionary piece of technology at 1:30 in the morning. And then when round 1 starts, my brain is still loading. Don't do that. Prioritize sleep. And before you go to bed, double check your deck. Then check it again. Then check it again. Make sure the physical 100 matches the list you submitted on Moxfield. Triple check that Moxfield. Do not take an L because you swapped 1 card Friday night and forgot to update your list. I've seen this a million times. Also, check your sleeves. Replace anything noticeably worn. You don't want marked card problems because you've been playing the same sleeves for 6 months and your Heuristic Study looks like it survived a small war. Check your tokens, counters, dice, and if the tournament has published rules or tournament-specific procedures, read them. Don't discover how turns, draws, concessions, deck checks, points, or end-of-round procedures work while a judge is explaining them to you with 2 minutes left. If the tournament starts at 10, get up at 8:30. Get some breakfast. Don't be running down to the event with 5 minutes left and freaking yourself out before you even shuffle your deck. Eat a good breakfast. Bring water. Get a coffee. Bring snacks. Personally, I don't like eating a huge meal in the middle of a tournament. It makes me sluggish. It could upset my stomach. I'd rather snack throughout the day and keep my energy relatively consistent. Fruit, nuts, protein bars, small snacks, whatever works for you. And seriously, I said it before, I'll say it again, drink water. 5 or 6 rounds of cEDH is absolutely exhausting. It's going to tax your brain. Water is the best thing you can do for your brain. You'll avoid headaches. You'll stay sharp. You'll stay awake. Drink water, drink water, drink water. You're tracking board states, hidden information, priority, trigger, politics, life totals, interaction, and the clock. Your brain is doing work. Take care of it. Keep it hydrated. And this is what I'm big on. Don't play scared. This one's important. Really important. When you sit down at your first table, don't play scared. Maybe you recognize the names in the pod. Maybe somebody across from you has won a major event recently. Maybe they developed the deck they're playing. Maybe they're on stream every day. Maybe they've played their deck 1,000 times. You know what? Who cares? Good players will make mistakes. Good players will keep bad hands. Good players will misread situations. Good players make bad threat assessments sometimes. And most importantly, good players can be beaten. Never forget that. Don't let them intimidate you. Don't become a deer in headlights because of the name sitting across from you. And don't let somebody use their reputation or their confidence to politic you into a corner, because they're going to try. Take in the information. Work together when it benefits you, but make your own decisions. When someone is trying to convince you to do something, you got to stop and you got to ask yourself, does this actually benefit me? Does this actually benefit the table? Because ultimately, you're responsible for your own decisions you make. They can't make them for you. Trust your preparation, trust your deck, trust yourself. You're good enough to be sitting at this table, so play like it. Play confidently, play thoughtfully, and play to the best of your ability. That's all you can control. Don't let these guys get in your head. Don't let them politic you into a corner, because they will take advantage of that. The moment they smell weakness, you're done for. Reset between rounds. As soon as that round ends, leave that game at the table. You kept a bad hand, learn from it. You punted, learn from it. Somebody ripped the exact card they needed from the top. Welcome to Magic. Get up, walk around, drink some of that water we've been talking about, use the bathroom, take a 5-minute reset. Because starting 0-1 does not mean the tournament's over. There's a lot of Magic left to play. But letting that first loss tilt you into round 2, that can absolutely end your tournament. If you get in your head, you will not play to the best of your ability, and only bad things can happen. Every single pod's a new game. Treat it that way. And finally, please be good to the judges. Judges have an extremely hard job in cEDH. They're dealing with complicated board states, 4 players telling them different versions of what happened, tournament logistics, time pressures, rules interactions involving cards that sometimes read like a small legal document. If you disagree with the ruling, there are appropriate ways to handle that. Call the head judge. Ask questions. Ask for a clarification. Appeal when that's available and appropriate. But be respectful. There's absolutely no advantage to making enemies with the people working their asses off so you can spend your Saturday playing competitive cardboard. Honestly, that applies to your opponents too. Play hard, advocate for yourself, call a judge when you need one, but don't be miserable to play against. Preparing for a cEDH tournament isn't about playing every possible matchup 50 times. You can't. Over the course of a year, maybe. There are too many decks. There are too many players. There's too many seeding combinations. There's too much variance. So instead, know the meta. Tune your flex slots. Don't panic and abandon your deck. Practice your mulligans. Get information. Know the decks around you. Understand your seat. Understand what you have to do in that seat. Take care of yourself. Drink water, eat, use the restroom, get good night's sleep. And above everything else, master your deck. That's the most important thing. Because when you're tired, you're under pressure, there's 6 minutes left on the clock, and 3 people are staring at you waiting for a decision, you don't want to start figuring out how your deck works then. You don't want to start figuring out a combo. You want that decision to feel automatic. Trust your preparation, trust yourself, and play your game. And one last thing, and probably the most important thing, have fun. Seriously, this is a game. And I genuinely believe that the more you're enjoying yourself, the better you're going to play. Don't get trapped in a negative mindset. Don't spend 3 rounds replaying the mistake you made in round 1. Don't sit there obsessing over your record, your points, your ranking, or what you should have done 2 hours ago. Remember why you started doing this in the first place. You love Magic, you love cEDH, you love competing. You love sitting down with 3 other people, shuffling up and seeing what happens. Everybody is going to have bad tournaments. Everybody is going to punt games. Everybody is going to make mistakes. And everybody is going to have days where absolutely nothing goes their way. Don't let it control you, and don't let your results define you. One tournament does not make you a great player. One bad tournament sure as hell doesn't make you a bad one. It's one tournament. You screwed up, learn from it. You got blown out, welcome to cEDH. Shuffle up for the next one. Enjoy the people sitting across from you. Laugh at the ridiculous shit that's going to happen. Make some new friends. Learn from your mistakes. And try to play the next game a little bit better than you played the last one. Trophies are awesome. Top 16s are awesome. Winning is awesome. But if you aren't enjoying the game anymore, what are you doing here? Play hard, play to win, but remember why you started playing in the first place. Shuffle up, enjoy the company, enjoy the game, and have some fun. That's how I prepare for a big tournament. That's how I play the day of. But this whole segment came from one of you in the comments, so let's keep it going. What's your tournament prep ritual? What did I miss? What's something you always do before a big event that I missed? Drop it in the comments. Maybe we'll steal another one of your questions for next week's cEDH Buzz, because apparently I'm just letting you write the show now, and I'm okay with it. That's one less thing I got to do. All right, let's get to events you should be at. Let's go. All right, guys, it's time for bangers you should be at, and we're starting with one that I really want to highlight because we spent a lot of time talking about giant cEDH events, but supporting your local and regional tournament scene matters. On August 29th, King's Court Gaming in Taunton, Massachusetts is hosting the Summer Sizzler 5K cEDH event, and this is a real tournament. They've got room for 108 players, 5 rounds of Swifts with a cut to top 16, and $5K in guaranteed prizing once they hit 64 players. First place is going to walk away with a grand and a championship play map. Second through fourth each get 600, and even fifth through 16th are taking home 200. Entry is only $80. Doors are at 8:30 a.m. and Magic starts at 10 a.m. This is exactly the kind of event I want people to support. We all love the massive destination tournaments, but you don't get 200, 300 person cEDH events without people first showing up for the 40, 60, 80, 100 player events happening in their own regions. If we want more stores running cEDH, we have to show up when they do. As a store owner, as a TO, I can't emphasize this enough. Bring your friends, meet some new players, support the organizer willing to put up $5,000 prize pool and take a chance on cEDH. So if you're anywhere near New England, the greatest place on earth, I mean that, go play some Magic and support your local scene. And in speaking of events getting supported, Breach the Bay. I have to plug Breach the Bay one more time because this thing is getting absolutely massive. Over 320 players have already registered. You know how Magic players are. They hate signing up early. They like to wait last minute. They like to be fashionably late to the party. This has a legitimate chance to become the biggest cEDH tournament ever held. So if you're sitting there on the fence wondering whether you should make the trip, come be part of history. There's a 25K open. There's a top deck invitational. There's going to be unbelievable Magic artists and vendors and hundreds of cEDH players coming together from all over the world. At this point, this isn't just another tournament. It's starting to feel like a cEDH convention. This is the kind of weekend we're going to be talking about years from now. The games, the people you meet, and all the ridiculous stories that come with it. Breach the Bay 2 has a chance to be legendary. So if you can make it, go. If you're on the fence, go. What do I always say? If you're within 9 hours of driving, get in the car. Gas is only $4.50 a gallon. What? It's that much? $7 in California? Well, yeah, if you have a hybrid, get in the car, drive, come play some Magic, come hang out, come find us and say hello, and come be part of what could be the biggest cEDH event ever. We'll see you at Breach the Bay. I'll be there slinging in the open. Peace. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for episode 11 of the Pregame Podcast. Next week, we'll have the full Breach the Bay recap, no matter how good I do or how catastrophically bad it goes. You're getting the tournament report either way. And if you made it this far, I'll let you in on my decision. I'm taking my own advice here. At Breach, I'm playing Ragishai or Treasure Farm. I know the meta is leading Turbo. I know there's no draws. I know those things might tell me I should be playing something else. I don't really care. I'm going to play what I know. I'm going to play what I'm comfortable with. And I'm going to trust myself to play good Magic, because after the entire episode of telling you to do that, I'd look pretty stupid if I didn't take my own advice. So we'll see how it goes. And if you see me at Breach, come say hello. And if you're enjoying the show, like, subscribe, tell a friend about the pregame. Next week, we're going to find out whether taking my own advice was brilliant or whether this clip ages terribly. Either way, I'll make a good podcast. We'll see you after the Breach, guys. Everybody have a good weekend. Be safe. Peace.